As I did with the hand cannon video, I'll go over all three of the rifles and talk about their stats and traits. I won't spend time going over the broader mechanics of guns as I already did that in the last video. One thing I noticed is that testing hyper-specific damage values is very difficult, especially for rifles. Because of how damage accumulation and all the extra bullets work, I'll only be giving rough estimates of the damage numbers, at least for this video. This isn't because I wasn't making a genuine effort to determine damage, there are just too many factors that can determine how much damage you end up doing in this weapon class. Starting with the tactical rifle, this weapon's basic shot is a rapid fire spray with each shot doing very little damage. The alternate fire is rising pitch, which starts off slow but then soon increases to a very fast rate. At larger clip sizes, the alternate fire can go through an entire clip much faster than the base fire. Base stats for the tactical rifle are damage accumulation scaling with drive, clip size scaling with command, and auto target radius also scaling with command. Damage accumulation is an important stat which will increase the amount of damage you do as long as you sustain fire on a target. From my testing, it doesn't appear that the target needs to be the same. As long as an enemy is being hit, your next bullet will do more damage. You are allowed very brief pauses between attacks before the damage accumulation is reset. Note that this is a stat that is shared with all rifles, so you will want to avoid short firing bursts when using them. Even with the stat at 0, damage is still higher the longer you can keep attacking. The effect is just more pronounced at higher levels. The difference between a level 0 damage accumulation and level 25 is about 30 to 40% more damage, although this is only when unloading 24 rounds. This would be more effective with a larger clip size, as more of the bullets will have a higher damage number. Speaking of which, clip size at level 0 starts at 24 rounds and increases to 36 at level 25. Like I just said, this is an important stat as a bulk of the rifle's damage comes after you build up damage accumulation. Auto target radius is difficult to tell what it does. I assume it means your gun will auto-target enemies more easily, but testing a level 0 to 25, I wasn't able to notice any significant difference. The gun is already very easy to auto-target with at level 0, and a higher level doesn't seem too important. Moving on to traits, the only one for level 1 is Superload. This is always the first trait the tactical rifle will get. It makes it so you deal more damage after a perfect reload. The extra damage only works as long as the trigger is held during the clip, so stopping the fire will end the effect. The extra damage is roughly 20% higher when unloading a 24 round clip, so it's definitely worth doing when you're able. The second and third traits for this gun are linked. When I say this, I mean there are some traits that can only appear with certain other traits on a gun. This was probably true for the hand cannons and seems to be true for other weapon types. I'm only mentioning it now because I was able to verify it for this specific gun. If I don't mention it for other guns, it doesn't mean it isn't true, it's just something I wasn't 100% sure of, so didn't want to bring it up in the video. The first set of tier 2 and 3 traits you can get are Spectral Round and Power Generator. Keep in mind that you still need to be level 20 to get the Power Generator trait. Them being linked just means that they won't appear with any other tier 2 or 3 trait. Spectral Round fires an additional bullet with every shot fired. This bullet does appear to scale with the damage accumulation stat, just like the base bullets. The shot itself seems about half as strong as the base shot, so it will roughly increase your damage by 1.5 times if you're hitting with both bullets. The bullet also has homing and wall piercing capabilities. It will curve towards targets on its own and can be used to shoot through walls. If you do shoot through walls, only the Spectral Round will hit the enemy, the base shot will do nothing. Power Generator is a trait we saw in the hand cannon video. It simply charges your power meter as you hit enemies, simple but very useful. The second set of tier 2 and 3 traits are Piercing Round and Absorb Load. Piercing Rounds does what it did for guns in the hand cannon video. It allows your bullets to go through targets to hit multiple opponents. Absorb Load will trigger a perfect reload when you absorb enemy bullets. Note that this perfect reload does combo with the Super Load trait, meaning if you reload the weapon this way, the next trigger pull will do increased damage. This super reload does seem to have a short cooldown, so constantly absorbing enemy bullets won't always trigger a reload if you do it too often. The only tier 4 trait is Cover Fire. The description says that it increases stagger damage, but since rifles don't do any stagger damage by default, it's better to say that it allows you to stagger enemies. This is a powerful trait as it can build stagger meter fairly quickly. The tier 5 trait for tactical rifle is Seeking Aftershot. This will fire off homing bullets at the end of a trigger press. If you release it early, you'll get fewer bullets, whereas if you do the entire clip, you'll get more. The amount of bullets is 1 for every 3 shots fired. This is only for main shots, so if you have spectral rounds, it won't fire more bullets just because you're technically shooting more. The Seeking bullets are quite strong and they home pretty aggressively towards targets, so it's a good trait to have. It also combos well with the Rising Pitch alt fire since this will allow you to empty larger clips faster as long as you hold the trigger the entire time. Second rifle to cover is the Smart Rifle. Base fire for this gun is very similar to the tactical, although the shots are noticeably weaker, which it quickly makes up for with its tier 1 and 2 traits, which I'll get into later. The alt fire consumes 2 bullets in order to fire a single shot which will split into 3 homing shots after a short distance. From a pure DPS standpoint, the alt fire is technically stronger than the base, but this seems to flip at higher weapon levels as you get more traits and the damage accumulation stat increases. What this fire mode does excel at is more accurately hitting distant targets, as well as hitting enemies around corners with no direct line of sight. The 3 stats for this rifle are the same as the tactical, just with some different scaling. Damage accumulation scaling with resilience, clip size scaling with command, and auto target radius scaling with drive. This is basically the same as the tactical, so I won't go over it again. Clip size is also exactly the same at level 0 versus 25. The only tier 1 trait this gun will get is Spectral Round. This is the same as the tier 2 trait for the tactical rifle. It once again fires a homing bullet that passes through walls. The only tier 2 trait you'll get is Extra Round, which adds 2 more shots for each shot fired. Since this will always be paired with Spectral Round, it means you'll be firing 4 shots per bullet, 1 base, 1 spectral, and 2 extra. These traits are why the base firing mode of this gun seems to perform better at higher levels. Since it has a higher rate of fire, the extra rounds will come out more often as well. The alt fire still seems a lot better for hard to hit targets though. Tier 3 traits can be one of 3. First is Power Generator, which is the same as it was for the tactical rifle. Second is Dash Load. This will refill 6 bullets every time you dash. Last is Absorb Load, which once again is the same as it was on the tactical. Tier 4 traits can be one of 2. First is Overload. This gives you a larger clip whenever you do a perfect reload. The clip size will be increased by 6 bullets, which will remain in effect as long as the last reload was perfect. Second tier 4 trait is Superload. This is the same as the tier 1 trait for the tactical rifle. You'll do more damage if you get a perfect reload. Tier 5 trait is Seeking Aftershot. Same as the tactical rifle. Just like before, this is a very strong trait. I'd say it's probably a little better on tactical rifle since that gun can empty clips faster using the alt fire. Final rifle is the Onslaught rifle. This is the hardest one to use but has a fairly high damage potential. Base shots are similar to the other two, although the rate of fire starts very high. It also does more damage by default than the other two guns. In addition to that, this gun can also target weak points for 2 times the damage. Note that unlike the hand cannons, weak point damage isn't a stat for the Onslaught rifle, so its base fire will do 2 times more damage regardless of the weapon level. All of this comes at the cost of auto-hitting. The gun will need to be manually aimed, making it much harder to use in frantic situations. The alt fire uses 2 bullets to fire a much stronger one. On its own, it does over double the damage of the base firing mode, which already does more damage than the other 2 rifles. Albeit, this alternate fire is a much slower fire rate. The upside is that the weak point multiplier is now 3 times the damage rather than the base fire's 2. If you're able to get a clean shot on enemy weak points, this can shred enemies down quickly. Like with the base fire, the alt fire cannot auto-target enemies. Stats for the Onslaught rifle are damage accumulation scaling with resilience, clip size also scaling with resilience, and spread control scaling with command. The first 2 stats are the same as they were for the other 2 rifles and work the same way. Because the gun cannot auto-target, the auto-target stat was replaced with spread control. This stat reduces the amount of bullets spread at higher levels, making each shot more precise. The difference between level 0 and 25 is noticeable, but you'll still have to aim it yourself. First trait for Onslaught rifle is Piercing Rounds. This is the same as the tier 2 trait for the tactical rifle. For the next tier, there are 2 different traits. First is Trinity Hit. The description says that every 3rd shot against the same target will do increased damage. I tried testing this for a while with both the basic fire and alt fire, and the damage numbers seem to come back exactly the same, as if I didn't have the trait at all. So, I think it might be bugged into doing nothing. I reported this, so hopefully this will be fixed assuming I'm right. The second tier 2 trait is Cover Fire. Just like with the tactical rifle, this allows you to do stagger damage, which the gun can't normally do. Since I believe Trinity Hit is bugged into doing nothing, this is by far the superior trait. The only tier 3 trait is Power Generator, which I already covered. Tier 4 can either be Superload or Overload, which I also covered on other guns. The only tier 5 trait is Extra Round. This is the same as the tier 2 trait on the Smart Rifle in that it fires 2 extra bullets. The strength is that the bullets seem proportionally stronger in this gun, making it a much stronger trait on this weapon than it was on the Smart Rifle, which is probably why they left it as a tier 5 trait. Paired with the base fire's high rate of fire, this also means you're firing more of the extra rounds. At this point, when you're not hitting enemy weak points, the base fire actually does more damage than the alternate fire, due to the extra rounds you get from the higher rate of fire. That's it for rifles. All 3 of them benefit a lot if you can continue firing without pauses, but the tactical rifle leans most heavily into this due to its all-fire rising pitch. The Smart Rifle is the easiest to use, but it still does good damage with all the extra bullets, while the Onslaught Rifle does very high damage but doesn't have any way to auto-aim, and doesn't benefit from homing bullets like Spectral Round or Seeking Aftershot. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.